Welcome to episode 10 of Out of Bounds, a podcast where I give my social commentary on different topics in today's society. I'm your host, Terry, and today I am talking about part 2 of Dating in 2019. Who knows how many parts this is going to be. But this is part 2, and today, specifically, I want to focus on the idea of safety and kind of what that does to people. And so what I mean by that, if you didn't catch the first part, you probably should go watch it. But talking about dating in 2019 heavily revolves around online dating, because that is how most people, or a lot of the younger people from the generation under, I'm 28, by the way. So yeah, the generation under me, that's how they date. So, and with online dating inherently comes the idea of being overprotective or just trying to have your own safety. And that comes from us having a lot more information than we used to, and people seeing a lot more horror stories, if you will, and people basically becoming paranoid. So there's that. And then of course, if you're meeting someone online, you haven't physically met them. So before, or if you happen to meet somebody now outside and about in real life, then people can then have that kind of sense of ease and security once they kind of fill you out. But with online, since you don't have that, there's a whole nother step. And that step is even deciding if you want to meet that person in real life. And so that kind of became a thing that was new when we started the internet, and you had all these chat sites and all that. But now we're at the point where it's second nature, or first nature, really, for a lot of people, where they are 100%, 1000% confident in letting strangers look at their entire life. Like, add me on Snapchat, add me this and that. You can look at everything I do all day long, but you can't have my actual number, or I don't want to actually see you in real life. And so, which is fine. But what that creates is this hyper aware reality where you have to go through all these steps and hoops to meet somebody in real life. And so what inherently happens, I think, is that you start sending this message to people that they are some type of danger, or that there's something wrong with them. And I 100% believe that you should take precaution before meeting somebody, because things do happen. I'm not saying just walk into a dark alley because somebody told you to, but I think once you walk into a situation with that mindset, the conversation you start having, the words you use, the phrases, you start sending off signals, small things that kind of tell and hint to the person that you think they're like a threat. And we all understand the dynamic that, hey, you don't know me, you don't know I could be dangerous, but that doesn't mean that you should then treat that person as if they're dangerous. And so there's a very slight difference, but huge impact for how you approach things, because we can come in with the understanding of what the situation is. But if you approach it with, okay, I'm going to treat you like a serial killer until I know otherwise, that's going to be very different as if I'm going to treat you like a normal, respectful human being until I see a flag that I shouldn't. That's going to make a huge difference. And there's a lot of people that are literally like that. They will say on profiles, until we meet or until I verify this, I think you're a serial killer. And that's just that hyper protectivism society, safetyism society we're in. And that's a whole nother conversation. But specifically, I think, and I'm not even going to make it a male female thing, but specifically for whoever is receiving that on the other end, it weighs on you. And I akin it to, the way people talk about, having metal detectors and whatnot in schools. And they talk about how if you continue, even though we understand it's for the safety, when you continue to have students feel and be treated as if they're prisoners or that they're dangerous, then that might start to subconsciously affirm those things in their head and eventually make them act the way that you're trying to protect them from acting. And so I don't know where I fall on that debate personally, but I think this is a similar thing. Even I take my own experience as African American male. A lot of times when you see the imagery of people like locking their doors or holding their purse or crossing the street when you walk, I get that a lot. I've got that all my life. And it is a compound effect where you get to a point that even though you know and you validate your own self, there's still a small thing in the back of your head like, wow, am I like really that dangerous? Do I really look that threatening? Am I an animal? Am I the actual animal they're looking for? And then sometimes you have people that's like, since you think I'm going to act like that, I'm going to give you exactly what you want just to freak you out. And so it depends on your own validation and your own self-worth. Because I think I'm pretty strong in that area, but it happens to me. It creeps into my mind a little bit. So I could only imagine somebody that's insecure and to get those messages over and over again, what that would actually do to them. And so when people continue to feed you these ideas that reaffirm the stereotypes, you know, it messes with you. And so if I'm a person online and I'm talking with someone and they're constantly, what I almost feel like are threats, reminding me like, oh, just so you know, all my friends have your like contact information and your picture, or just so you know, I gave my address to my parents in case, you know, something happens, or just so you know, I have a friend that's supposed to check on me at such and such time. And if I don't answer, then they're going to know something's wrong. Or just so you know, I'm carrying bear spray. Just so you know, I'm a gun owner. And it's just all these things. And it's again, I understand it. And I don't even knock you going through those precautions. I don't think you need to talk to people that way though. I still think there's a psychological issue with approaching people that way and having to go, or thinking that you have to go through all those things with every single person. But I could still understand it. But I can't understand you talking to someone like that. And so why would you continue to talk to me, especially if the goal is for us to, you know, have something romantic or even a friendship? Like no relationship in any form is built off that type of thing. No healthy one. And so before we even meet, I'm already being treated like some type of criminal. And I don't like the message it sends. Again, I think, it comes to your self-validation. If people want to joke with you, you should be able to take a joke. Even if you get offended, you should be able to process why you're offended and move on. But I still think there's just a common decency and respect to how you have conversations with people. And then not even talking about how that manifests in the physical meeting where they're still not sure yet. And so they behave awkwardly with you. And it's just weird. I mean, it's just weird because you got to think that, yes, you don't know what this person is or what they might do, but do you know every person you're going to encounter when you go outside? Have we ever known what the person's going to do? No, when you get in the cab, you don't know what the person's going to do, or Uber. When you're in the elevator with somebody, when you go into the store, you don't know if that person's going to rob the store. You never know these things, but somehow with dating, it all of a sudden becomes this big issue of like, let me treat everybody like the worst case scenario. And I understand, like, if you're saying, okay, I've never met you, but come to my house and I live by myself. Just come here. And I'm off in the woods somewhere. I get all that. The big thing is meeting in public. I get that. Fine, cool, whatever. But that doesn't mean that you have to take it to the extreme. And not everybody does, of course, but I think it's more commonplace now than it used to be. And not even extreme, but it could be slight, subtle ways in which you converse with a person. I think it goes a lot further to let a person know you're looking at them as a human, as a good intentioned human being, and that you're going to approach them that way until otherwise. I don't think it's necessarily productive to let somebody know that, hey, I think you're going to try to kill me, so I'm going to just act that way. That, I just think that's backwards, because you talk about how you would approach an actual serial killer if you knew the person was a serial killer versus how you would approach, one of your friends going to their place. So, to sit here and say, oh no, it's okay because I don't know you, I could treat you like that because I'm just being safe, that it doesn't compute, because the way you're treating them and the way you come in there with your mindset is going to have an effect. And so I think it's better to come at it at a different way, at least in the language you use. But that's the result of the online dating culture, where again, there's that extra step of, I don't know who you are. If you met somebody out at a club or a bar, you don't know them exactly either, but that human ability to be around somebody, to have your intuition to sense and kind of feel and get an idea for them, makes people more comfortable. But again, we got the extra layer now. So now I got to go through all these things online before I even meet you in person. And so I just think the online dating in 2019 has an extra hoop that we all got to jump through, and that you're constantly proving yourself. And so I talked a little bit about that in part 1, where you feel like you're interviewing and you're just being constantly judged and it's not natural. And that's kind of this part 2, where you're always having, instead of having to prove that you're a good person necessarily, you're having to prove that you're not an evil person. And I think that's a powerful difference. So anyway, go to the comment section. Let me know what you think about this. Share it around, get the discussion started. Thumbs up, subscribe. And until next episode.